Cabin Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. He's to the drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. And we have just come off the biggest weekend in pro sports every year. And the first big one since well, no, that's not true. We've had some pretty big events since last year's Super Bowl, but
Right.
It seemed like when that Super Bowl ended and then the COVID-19 pandemic took over, it was like, well, that's it. That was the last
Yep.
fun thing.
Yep.
We'll all get to gather and watch. In this case, Super Bowl 55, about, 25,000 cardboard cutouts?
Yeah.
About 15,000 people, 7,500 of which were apparently vaccinated doctors and
True.
frontline
Yep.
workers. So
Yep.
that was kind of cool. Welcome to Cabin Sports Radio. Unbreakable Mike Gibbons and myself, Lecter, with you for an hour of sports chat. Yes, of course, we are going to talk Super Bowl 55 because, well, it just happened. It's fresh on our minds, and it's just kind of nice to talk on this show and not have an impending big thing happen the very next day.
That's right.
It happened the previous day,
Yes.
Mike.
There's going to be no breaking news in the world of the NFL tomorrow. We hope.
Fingers crossed.
We hope there
Yes.
could be something.
Tom Brady will do something.
Yeah.
You know, the guy can't stop. He can't turn his brain off. He can't
did.
relax for a bit.
He did commit. They're coming back next year.
Oh, did he already say that?
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
When he was presented with the MVP award, he was obviously asked about his future and what it holds, and he said, "We're coming back next year."
I saw a quote that he was saying he might play till he's 45. He's 43
He's
right
43
now.
now.
Not? So he's
Yeah.
not only next year, but the year after that.
Yeah.
Like he's already planning
Why not?
for the future ahead of next year.
Swap locales, bring your friend with you from New England, and just run ship again. You might as well.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It's worked out for him so far.
Well, in the typical Tom Brady, series of championships is that he takes every second year off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, he's not expecting to win anything next
Right.
year. But age 45.
Boom.
Look out, baby.
Watch out.
It's time for Super Bowl number 8. All right. We are going to get into the show here, and let's take a look at your CSR headlines.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9 to claim Super Bowl 55 in Tampa last night. The win gives quarterback Tom Brady 7 titles for his illustrious career, more than any other player or franchise for that matter. But it was the team's defense that stole the show, limiting the defending Super Bowl champs to 3 field goals over the course of the entire game. Brady was also named Super Bowl MVP for the 5th time.
I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I did call some semblance of this.
Yes.
I did pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win. I did, and I don't remember what score I predicted. I wish I could look back into the Cabin Sports Radio vault right now, but it's locked up tight, and I don't know the combination. I did predict, though, that they would hold the Kansas City Chiefs to a reasonable amount of points.
Yeah.
Offensively. I don't think I predicted that the Chiefs would not score an offensive touchdown.
Right.
That I don't think could be predicted.
I want to know what the prop was for that to happen. If what the prop was for the Kansas City Chiefs, the best offense in all of football, the reigning Super Bowl champions, the team with the most promising quarterback in all of football, who many people think is the next coming of Tom Brady, and this was going to be a marquee matchup. I want to know what the prop was for them to not score a single touchdown. It would be astronomical, I bet you.
I don't endorse gambling, but I hope someone put money on that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. I think it struck me probably, and I watched the entire game from start to finish. I think it struck me maybe towards the start or the midway point of the third quarter. Is like, this is a really boring football game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was because the Tampa Bay defense was so good. I think both teams started right away with a 3-and-out. And you're like, that's fine. These quarterbacks are way too good.
Yeah.
They're going to figure out the defense 1 minute or another. Obviously, Tom Brady did. It was his first crazy stat, first quarter touchdown ever.
What? Really?
In Tom Brady's 10 previous Super Bowls, he had never scored a touchdown in the first quarter of any previous 9 Super Bowl outings, which is remarkable. There were so many stats that were just broken. Patrick Mahomes had never lost by more than single digits in his career. Got blown out 31-9 in the biggest game of the year.
There was also the most that Tom Brady has ever won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
By.
The margins in the previous ones are like 3, 3, 4, 6. I think there was a 10 in there. Of course, the second last one before the Rams was the epic comeback against the Falcons in overtime.
Yeah.
So that was by a score, but it was closer than that, in that it went to overtime. But just crazy numbers flying around after this game. I think, and it speaks volumes to the quality of their offensive line all night long. I think he faced the least amount of pressure by a quarterback in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Whereas Patrick Mahomes, oh my goodness, if you were watching that game, all I can recall is him scrambling for his life, running 20, 30 yards back at any given time just to free himself up. To his credit, he got off some absolutely miraculous passes.
He did. Yep.
Incomplete passes.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was able to even get them, there's a picture of him when the ball's still in his hand and he's basically parallel to the ground and somehow still gets it off.
The most highlight reel incomplete passes I've ever seen in my life.
And there was a handful of them. There wasn't just one. There was maybe 3 highlight reel incomplete passes.
Yeah.
You figured at some point Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce were going to figure it out. But right from the get-go, they were doubled. And Kelce was able to, open things up a little bit in the fourth, but it was almost too little too late by then. And I also want to give a lot of credit, once again, we've done it on this program before, to Tony Romo.
Oh, yeah.
That guy, he's so good.
Yeah, I didn't catch actually much of his breaking down to the plays, what he's become known for is like not even breaking down plays, predicting plays before they happen. Yeah. We had a small gathering, a small reasonable gathering.
Very good. Keep it under 10. Keep it under 10.
And we didn't hear a lot of the commentary. So what were some of his highlights, the Romo highlights?
Just really good at reading where the play action was going to be based on how the defense was setting up, and he'd get his little marker out. He's like, they got to have a play action here. There's going to be a screen here. The ball's going to move this way.
Right.
The defense is overloading on this side. I want to see something happen here. And to his credit, and I remember saying to Jess at the time too, I was like, this guy is a magician.
Yeah.
Like basically whatever he's calling out as a play call, look for some action on that side, and sure enough, there would always be something. He was on fire once again last night, and I remember thinking at halftime, and everyone had me believing it's like with either team, no lead is safe right now.
Yes,
and I believe it was a 21-9 lead going into halftime, which is absolutely nothing if you are, 21-6. Mm-hmm. Which is nothing for the Kansas City Chiefs to overcome. And I remember thinking the same thing. It's like, they're going to flip a switch here. They're going to go on a run. This is going to be, and I'm sure we talked about this last week, one of Brady or Mahomes are going to have the ball for a game-winning drive. That's kind of what it felt like it was building up towards.
Right.
Like it was going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
And one of these amazing quarterbacks is going to have an epic game-winning drive starting in their own zone, go the way, milk the clock, and ice it. So that always, it felt like a possibility until about, I want to say the midway through the third, and then it occurred to me, it's like, this is a really boring football game. And kudos to the Tampa Bay secondary, who were absolutely outstanding.
It was a game that had so much potential until suddenly it didn't anymore.
And I think the injury, the foot injury, the toe, the turf toe. I think it was kind of wearing on Mahomes a little bit.
Yep.
It was already announced before the game he's going to have surgery.
Yeah,
he looked a little hobbled, and my goodness, they were pressuring him like crazy.
Oh yeah.
So taking away their best options, and it was unprecedented. It was weird to see almost their juggernaut offense had no answers whatsoever. And on the other side, it just seemed like, it was a lot of short game passing, carving up the defense that way. But the Brady and the Buccaneers were able to be pretty successful in that way. Connects with Gronk for another 2.
They look good.
Yeah. Oh, they look great.
Man, almost like they played together for, over a decade.
So they passed Montana and Jerry Rice for the number one amount of connections between them. 13 now for postseason, and also 5 in the Super Bowl alone.
Wow.
So they're the best passer-receiver combination, but you probably didn't need to hear that from us. They did it again, and they looked awesome last night. So connected when they needed to. Their offense, they got what they needed to, and the secondary. You can't talk enough about how incredible they were at slowing down that offense.
I've talked on this show about how I've expressed some hesitancy about calling Tom Brady the undisputed greatest of all time. I can't anymore. It's crazy. You can't question it.
It's crazy
anymore. And that was one of the cool things about going into this game was the storylines that were combating with each other, which was, of course, Tom Brady going for his 7th Super Bowl, which is crazy. His first as not a member of the New England Patriots, cutting the cord from Bill Belichick, and kind of stepping out on his own and going to prove if he is the greatest of all time. If it was Tom Brady the whole time in New England, or if it was Tom Brady was just a cog in the system, part of the machine that New England had put together, and thus Bill Belichick had put together. You had that scenario coming in against Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, the best quarterback in the NFL right now, trying to double down and become the first repeat champion since the New England Patriots did it with Tom Brady in 2003, 2004, and just solidify his name. It's already solidified, but just absolutely putting it in cement as the premier quarterback without question, going to be in the Hall of Fame at only the age of 25.
Right.
There's only so many players who you can look at that young an age. You're just coming into your prime around 25. There's only a few players you could look at and say, yeah, without a doubt, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
MVP, Super Bowl MVP.
Like Patrick Mahomes,
and had a chance to do it again.
Exactly. Like Patrick Mahomes, we can put pretty good money on the fact that he is going to be a Hall of Famer. Unless his personal life just takes an absolute turn for the worse, and so does his football career. I don't anticipate that happening. As they mentioned in the game, he's going to play in more Super Bowls. He's going to have at least a few more opportunities to win this game. So this is, obviously it sucks that he did not perform well. But he's going to get another shot. He's 25 years old. He's got most of his career yet still ahead of him. He's going to be rolling in cash that entire time. And he will have another shot. But it was really cool having those two storylines come in and clash and see which one prevailed. And with the way that they won, the way that Tom Brady, the defense is getting a ton of love. Obviously, there's some people who are naysaying, saying, should Tom Brady have been the Super Bowl MVP? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense held the Kansas City offense to 9 points and nothing like that. Whatever. That's just whatever. But the way they came in, Tom Brady was just... He played like he always does in these big games. He's very precise. He's surgical. He takes care of business and then looks to his defense to do their job. They did their job and then some. But the way he just came out, him and Gronk just looked unstoppable.
Yep.
Took care of business, put up 31 points on the board. If you have a good defense, you should not need to put up more than 31 points as an NFL team. He got his job done. Tampa Bay Buccaneers win. And now with all those other numbers you were throwing out there, it's not disputable anymore.
No.
He is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yep. 21 for 28 over the course of the game. So again, not crazy flashy numbers, but I mean, even at one point late into the game, had more touchdowns than he did incomplete passes. So only 7 incomplete over the course of the game. Goes for 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like you said, just there was the one, but it was called back. And that's another thing. The secondary for the Chiefs, oh my goodness. Penalties after penalties after penalties.
I've never seen so many holding calls on a defense before.
There were a lot.
Man.
And probably a lot that went uncalled too. It was just really undisciplined play. I know that was a bit of a storyline in the first, and that everyone was sort of hoping, in the second half at least, the refs would swallow the whistles, let the teams play a little bit more. You don't want to have, what was that egregious call a couple of years ago against Minnesota? I think that was at the NFC. I can't remember if it was a title game or maybe a divisional game against the Saints. Could have even been last year. There was a really bad unmissed call, and it was player interference or passer interference in the end zone,
yes.
and it was a game.
Yes,
it would have been a game-winning drive.
Yeah, it was. It was on it was called against the Saints, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it comes to a point where you can't swallow your whistle if it's an egregious call.
No.
But I think the thinking was, there was some ticky-tack holding stuff, but there was a lot of it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of holding on the part of the Chiefs secondary last night. Matthew had a really funny interaction with Tom Brady. He's like, don't poke the bear, man. And, he even said after the game, I've never seen that side of Tom Brady. So that'd be kind of scary, where you've got the greatest of all time saying, I'm coming at you. Next possession, next time down, he does go at you. He burns you. He scores on you. And then he reminds you.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm still going to come at you like I just did. Kind of scary. But, the numbers are just crazy now. So you've got Montana and Elway, both with 4 apiece. I think there's someone else slotting in there at 3. Both Mannings and Roethlisberger with 2.
How many did Bradshaw have? He had 4.
Yeah, I think he's in the 3-4, the 3-4 range.
Okay.
So even before this game, Brady was already distancing himself from the pack with 6. Now you've got a 7th there, more than any other franchise.
That's the craziest thing. Yeah.
So the New England Patriots have 6. He, of course, was there for all of them. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are the only other franchise with the same amount of Super Bowl victories with 6 as well. He's got more than every single NFL franchise now with 7. So it's truly insane. He is in a league of his own. I think I also heard them say, as a team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one of the, if not the lowest winning percentage across North American professional sports. And then you take a player like Tom Brady, introduce him in his first year.
Yeah.
He brings probably one of the greatest tight ends with him of all time after he came out of retirement too, and Rob Gronkowski. And then they just inject a culture of winning. And in 1 year, at the age of 43, and then here's the craziest thing. Name the 3 quarterbacks he went through.
So who did he beat?
3 Hall of Famers.
All a blank now.
3 Hall of Famers. Patrick Mahomes, like you said.
Yeah.
In the NFC title game, Aaron Rodgers, who just won his 3rd NFL MVP.
Right.
And before that, Drew Brees, who's also won a Super Bowl.
Wow.
So you go through 3 Hall of Famers in your first ever trip to the NFC with a brand new team at the age of 43, whole new offense, management, coaching, ownership, you name it, and then go out and win a 7th title. It's just unprecedented winning. And now, solidified NFL GOAT. It's done. It's signed, sealed, delivered. I'm never going to throw the word undisputed in front of it anymore.
Or disputed.
Sorry, disputed. We'll never throw that term in front of it anymore.
No.
And
We're
now
sorry for questioning you, Tom, all right? We get it.
And now the question becomes, like, is he the GOAT of GOATs? Like, if we're talking North American professional sports, and that's more of a, how do you quantify that?
Yeah, that becomes an apples versus oranges.
Right. You've got the Tigers. Yeah. You've got the Michaels. You've got the Waynes.
Yeah.
Now you've got the Toms, which I think we had before. But, I mean, there's a reason to have that conversation, too, just because of, like, when you get to a point where you're that successful and winning on that level that many times.
Yeah.
People are going to throw your name out there. It's crazy. It's truly unfathomable. And have we seen the end of it? Doesn't even feel like that's the case.
I guess not. No.
So, I mean, we'll see. Maybe this is a conversation we're having again next year, but it truly is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And again, I was a fool. We have it here
too, buddy. Me
on
too.
the airwaves, on Cabin Radio. I really need to stop offering predictions. Because I probably the week before I even picked the Packers too, and then
I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. So
and I know I picked the Chiefs last week. So I'm a fool.
We just try at every opportunity to make Tom Brady seem human, and he just keeps saying no.
Yeah.
I'm not. Stop, you idiots.
Yep.
God. Like, what do I have to do to prove to you I am superhuman?
Yeah, and I know those words came out of my mouth too. I know I said at some point, it feels so wrong and so stupid to bet or to vote against Tom Brady when he's just done this so many times.
Yeah.
So who knows? We could very well be in this exact same position next year when he's going for number 8.
I guess it's just time we gave him his due credit.
Yep.
Like, after all this.
Death, taxes, and Tom Brady's Super Bowls.
So there you go. The 55th edition of the Super Bowl in the books. Tom Brady wins once again. Yada, yada, yada. But the real story of Super Bowl 55
was the streaker.
I mean, that was arguably the most exciting part of the game. Although, of course, they didn't show it
No,
on TV.
They were really good at that. I just saw the pink flash.
Yeah.
And then they're showing Mahomes and Brady.
Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes watching the streaker.
We're going to go to commercial.
Yeah. Also, The Weeknd.
Yep.
Fantastic halftime show. Yep. We were saying this morning on the morning show, normally, like if it's a boring Super Bowl game and the halftime show will like really stand out, it's like, that was actually pretty entertaining. Last year, you had like actually a really good Super Bowl game, really good halftime show with J-Lo and Shakira.
Oh yeah,
but it didn't stand out as much because the game surrounding it was really good.
Yeah,
this time the game surrounding it was like really not good.
No,
and the halftime show was already going to be a spectacle.
Yeah,
he was on the stage or on the field and everything at the 50-yard line. Like that was an amazing show.
It was really cool.
And it stood out even more because, the game bookending it was a bit of a snooze. But nevertheless, the real story of Super Bowl weekend, Doug Flutie, CFL former quarterback, for CFL Hall of Famer, NFL quarterback, former teammate of Tom Brady's in New England, just stealing the show. Super Bowl week. Apparently he was driving, or he has his own Batmobile that he was driving around in. He took part in the annual, and I'm actually surprised they were still allowed to do this, but he took part in the annual beach football game that they always have. They always have like a flag football on the beach game. There's actually been players who have had their careers ended getting injured in that game. Nearly 60-year-old, 57-year-old Doug Flutie took part and not only won that game, then won the WWE 24/7 championship by pinning R-Truth when he wasn't looking.
Wow.
He lost the title moments later when Truth, pinned him for the 310 again.
Yeah.
But for a brief moment in time, Doug Flutie was a WWE title champion. I don't know if you can, other than just becoming the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Tom Brady was injured in a freak accident, maybe got hit by a Batmobile.
Right.
And then Doug Flutie just jumps in and wins the Super Bowl. I don't know what else you could do to capitalize on that weekend. Doug Flutie, already a football legend, just put his name, just knocked it out of the park there.
had himself a weekend.
I still can't believe he owns a Batmobile.
I know.
It's just so non-Doug Flutie-like.
That's the one thing I'm taking away from this story.
Doug Flutie is the coolest human being.
And he owns a Batmobile.
And he owns a Batmobile.
Like, he's got a year round. Like, this is a guy that must have a year round. Just parked in a garage somewhere or something like that. That's pretty incredible. Tampa Bay, City of Champions, eh?
Yeah.
So they've got the Lightning now, the Buccaneers. And if they don't win it on South Beach, well, they're friends over on Long Beach between the Lakers and the Dodgers. That's where all the professional North American titles went to this year between those two cities. So it sounded like it was a really fun weekend in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no kidding.
And Doug Flutie was the star.
And let's just, try to not ruin it by looking at the inevitable COVID numbers that come as a result. But,
From a super spreader event like that with thousands of people.
We don't have to put a damper on everything, Mike.
Yeah.
We can just ignore some things because, the state of Florida ignores it. So
yeah.
Why shouldn't we?
Including the mother of the head coach of the Tampa Bay, 95 years old. She was in attendance. I think she was wearing a mask.
Yeah, she shouldn't have been there.
And there, when you're looking at a lot of the booths, and you would have hoped that these were all in each other's bubbles, right? Because these are private booths with family. Not a mask to be seen, or if they are, they're hanging around their chins.
Oh yeah,
Actually,
though, there was a really funny moment. The Kansas City safety you were talking about earlier.
Oh, Matthew,
Yep. He either got beaten on a play or something, and it was showing him on the sidelines. He had his mask like around his neck, but down.
Yep.
And screaming at a coach.
Yep.
And then after he was done screaming at him, put his mask up over his mouth and walked away.
Yeah.
Because now you got to be safe, right?
Right.
It's just
all the American commercials are, of course, going to be fostering this global citizenship. They're all heartfelt. We're going to grab your heartstrings and just tug at them.
Right.
It's all about family. It's all about sacrifice. It's all about compassion. The all the frontline workers are the heroes. They celebrated all the ones at the game last night who were vaccinated, which is excellent.
That's the coolest thing about that. Yeah. 7,500 tickets to nurses and doctors and frontline workers for free.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
I think they also put up the family of one of the officers who was killed at the Capitol storming.
Oh, okay.
I think they had a booth set up for them. And that's what the NFL does. It's always there's always a feel-good element to the games and stuff like that. So we're going to celebrate all our frontline workers, but then we're going to host a potential super spreader in the state of Florida.
And if you saw any of the clips of the celebrations afterwards, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Do they have another boat parade now, I guess? Get out the jet skis?
I guess they're going to have to.
Yeah.
But,
Round 2, baby.
Well, that should be fun. Turning to the NHL, we were talking last week on the show, breaking down the trade between the Winnipeg Jets and the Columbus Blue Jackets, which, by the way, Pierre-Luc Dubois just got out of quarantine and is able to begin playing for the Winnipeg Jets now. Patrick Laine has played a couple games now.
2
for the
goals
Columbus Blue Jackets.
against the... Yeah. Did you see that offside?
No.
So there was a really controversial, I think it was a 6-5 final. The Hurricanes beat the Blue Jackets. Torts, really wise on his part, had no comment, but there was a pretty egregious offside that was offside, and this went against the Blue Jackets.
Okay.
And there was a miscommunication between the Goal Review Center in Toronto and the on-ice official. So the call on the ice, so they told them to make a call, which was to call it back. The official called it a goal, and it was bad. So Laine had some really colorful quotes after the game, saying that's the biggest joke he's ever seen. And to his credit, Torts had no comment because he probably would have got fined again.
Yeah.
But
he knows what's up.
But Laine did have 2 goals in that game, so lining up for his new team. But we're talking about the Calgary Flames right now, and forward Sam Bennett and his representation have reportedly asked for a trade out of the city. The 4th overall pick in 2014, Bennett has seen his role diminish this season despite a strong playoff showing last summer. Bennett has only registered 2 points and is a -5 through the team's first 10 games.
I thought Kevin Bieksa had a pretty good take on it. I don't know if he saw. I don't know. Is it still Hockey Night in Canada?
Yeah.
I guess it's still.
Saturday night.
I don't have cable anymore. I don't know what they call anything.
Oh, it's great. I never miss it.
But the Leafs Canucks game on Saturday night. During one of the intermissions, the panel featuring Kevin Bieksa, he had a really good take on it, and it was very concise, pretty simple. It was, if you're going to demand a trade, be tradable.
Yeah.
And you look at Sam Bennett, and it's just... Yeah, I mean, so the latest rumors that I've heard, go figure, are that Sam Bennett is being there's conversations between the Calgary Flames and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Right. Yep.
Now, when I saw the news break that Sam Bennett had requested a trade from the Calgary Flames, you know, the obvious things that you always hear are certainly in this case, you've got a first round, 4th overall pick in 2014. Like that comes with a high profileness to it already.
Yep.
He has largely been a third line center for the Calgary Flames since he's played there. And the thought seemed to be that he felt like he deserves more ice time or wants to take on a bigger role. Now, he's a center iceman, so you know that there's always a little bit more value to a center than a winger. But you look at a potential trade with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the premise being that Sam Bennett wants to have a second, or you know, he's not a first line center, but that he wants to increase his role on a team, get a little bit more ice time. So you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you know, obviously your top two centers are Austin Matthews and John Tavares.
Yeah.
You really think...
Are you better than either of them?
Yeah. Do you see your role changing in that lineup? I've heard rumors, there's talk about Alex Kerfoot for Sam Bennett, but again, Alex Kerfoot is a third line center with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know why Calgary would necessarily be interested in that trade, other than they're already at a disadvantage with it being known publicly that a potential asset of theirs does not want to be there for whatever reason. So you kind of wonder if it's again just like maybe just like a change of scenery thing, because Sam Bennett he's not had a remarkable career to this point for a 4th overall pick. And just to give you a couple comparables from that very same draft, the 2014 draft. So Sam Bennett was picked 4th overall. He's played 374 games, spent like one more year in junior, and then has been with the Calgary Flames ever since. 64 goals, 66 assists, 130 points. Here is the yikes stat.
Yeah.
He is a career minus 58.
Which is the second worst for that entire draft class, behind only...
Is it Leon Draisaitl?
It is not. It is Sam Reinhart.
Sam Reinhart.
Of the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you kind of see where that comes from.
Sam
Leon Draisaitl minus 13, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
He was on some not very successful Edmonton Oilers teams by the time he was drafted. So, yeah, that is a yikes number if I've ever heard one.
Especially when you are a third-line guy, you are being put in a defensive shutdown role.
Yeah.
You gotta put up a better plus minus than that. So a few comparables for you. Jake Virtanen of the Vancouver Canucks was taken 2 places below Sam Bennett, 6th overall in the 2014 draft. A player that kind of the same as Bennett came in with fairly high expectations. He had been a member of the Team Canada World Junior team, and you know, so there were fairly high expectations for him as a Vancouver Canuck. He's played 290 games so far, 51 goals, 45 assists, 96 points, is a career minus 25. And this is a guy that, since he got there, has been they've been pretty hard on him.
Yeah,
he's been panned every year about his play and his lack of production. But for comparison, he's played 84 fewer games than Sam Bennett, has 34 fewer points, so scoring at about the same pace. So that does not bode well for Sam Bennett, because Jake Virtanen is very solidly slotted in as a third-line winger for the Vancouver Canucks. You compare that to William Nylander of the Toronto Maple Leafs, taken 8th overall. I've famously not had a lot of love for William Nylander, but when you look at his stats, they don't lie. 319 games played, 90 goals for, 143 assists, 233 points. And here's the part that amazed me. He is a career plus 14.
Yeah.
What?
That I'm sharing my awe with you.
And not to mention the fact that he is coming off a career year. Last year, put up 31 goals, 59 points in 68 games. That also doesn't bode well for Sam Bennett as far as comparables go. And William Nylander has been, ice time wise, has been kind of up and down. He's been mostly a second line player. He's spent some time flitting back and forth between the first and third line, but the knock on him has generally been consistency, effort, that sort of thing.
General softness.
But he has improved every year. And again, plus 14.
Yeah.
Like
that's quite surprising.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's, it's hard to argue with that when you look at that. Taken one place below that was Nick Ehlers, 9th overall with the Winnipeg Jets. He's played 380 games, so just 6 more games than Sam Bennett. Has 121 goals, 148 assists, 269 points. And this absolutely blew me away. A career plus 43.
Wow.
And this is not a guy who is known to be particularly defensively responsible. Nick Ehlers he's put up fairly consistent numbers. He's had 4 20-goal seasons in his young career. So he's been a fairly consistent contributor offensively for the Winnipeg Jets. But, has been kind of the same as William Nylander. He's been largely a second line, sometimes third, but mostly second line player. And again, not a good comparable for Sam Bennett. As it turns out, you go a little further down the list to the 22nd overall pick. One us Leafs fans are very familiar with. Kasperi Kapanen, now a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins, has played 210 games, 43 goals, 53 assists, and 96 points, and is a career plus 10. And this is, other than Jake Virtanen, is maybe the closest comparable, other than the fact that he is also a winger. But he's played, largely third line minutes with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is why I think they just didn't see him maybe fitting into a top 2 or a top 6 role, which is why they decided to pull the trigger and make the trade to Pittsburgh.
It's a tough top 6 to crack.
But nevertheless, he has scored at a much higher pace than Sam Bennett, with playing much fewer games and probably less ice time because he's not a center. He's a winger, but still. So if you then take all that into account and you look at the return that the Leafs got in a package for Kasperi Kapanen, and it was nothing particularly overwhelming or interesting. I felt at the time that they were giving him up for a little bit less than they maybe could have got. But it really makes you look at this Sam Bennett situation and think, what are you honestly expecting out of this? I can't make sense of where his head is at unless it is strictly I don't like Johnny Gaudreau. I don't like Sean Monahan. I don't like Giordano. If he just wants to get out of Calgary. But if it's a situation where he thinks he's being underused, you kind of have to make your coach realize that through the way you play. And I can't say that Sam Bennett has done that.
I think something that is probably pretty puzzling for Flames fans and probably pretty frustrating is he has this moniker of playoff Sam Bennett. He's a known playoff performer. His point per game average, I think, doubles come playoff time. He had a really good run in the bubble last year against the Jets before they were stopped by the Stars. 5 goals, 3 assists, led the team in hits. So he can bring you that sandpaper element. And when he's locked in, he can be a pretty good scorer too. But he's, the top 6 in Calgary is pretty good. Elias Lindholm playing at a good level. Obviously, Monahan's going to be there. Tkachuk, Gaudreau. And then even some of the newer additions on the team have sort of crept above him in the pecking order. The Josh Levos, Mangiapane. So he's kind of found himself more in a centering the third line. He's also had some fourth line minutes this year as well. So to BX's point, if you are going to request a trade, you have to make yourself tradable. The trade we saw a couple weeks ago involved two superstar caliber players in Pierre-Luc Dubois and Patrick Laine. Unhappy with their current situations, but either team is going to be happy with the return because they can bring you something different. Patrick Laine had 2 goals the other night. He's an elite goal scorer. Pierre-Luc Dubois, a really good center, a really good two-way player. He can put the puck in the net too. So they've got the numbers to sort of back up those demands. The 2014 draft, it was a pretty strong draft.
It was a good draft, yeah.
So, looking at the points, the point shares, you've got 2 who rise above the rest. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl and David Pastrnak.
Yeah, that's one we didn't even mention.
Yeah, that's a really, really strong draft class.
Way down there at number 25 overall, David Pastrnak.
That's crazy. That is insane. Aaron Ekblad, who went on to win the Calder Trophy that year. Braden Point, Ehlers, as you alluded to. As much as we make fun of him, William Nylander's in the top 8 for point shares. So he's given the Leafs good production too. I think the question now becomes, you're right. Now that it's out there, the value, what they're going to get in return is probably diminished because teams have leverage now. They know that that star wants out, and they can maybe lowball them. One thing that I'll add a little bit of fuel to the fire here. Wayne Simmons is going to be out for 6 weeks now.
Yeah,
that's a really unfortunate injury. Man,
he was playing so good.
Yeah, especially and it was notable in the 2-game set they had against the Flames.
Yeah,
when Tkachuk was being really annoying, and everyone's thinking, all right, they've just injured your goaltender. Wayne Simmons is going to come out and pummel him next game. He comes out and scores a goal instead. Yeah. And then comes out the next game and scores. So he's up to at least 3 tallies on the year, which is...
I think he's got 5. Yeah. He had 2 against the Canucks the other night. Yeah.
So really, really good early season production from Wayne Simmons, who, again, is going to give you that sandpaper element on a minimum contract. He's looked really... Getting power play minutes.
Yep.
He's looked really, really good. But playing the same position, maybe they pull the trigger with him being out of the lineup for the next little bit. And the one other thing I'll say, and we saw it with the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Winnipeg Jets trade, in a condensed season, do you really want to acquire someone and then have them sit on the bench for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So that's why maybe you see more activity within the North Division. It sounds weird to say because you're then going to suit up against that team for another... 6 to 8 games over the course of the condensed season, in a short period of time. You don't usually see in-division trades, but I think that 2-week quarantine period is something that general managers will at least think about.
Yeah, give them reason for pause.
Yeah, because it is a consideration. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois is only just suiting up now, and that trade happened 2 weeks ago now. So I think it's something to think about, but the production hasn't been there for Sam Bennett through the first couple games, and if he's upset about his current role, if you look at a team, a lot of other teams in the North Division have really strong top 6s, so you got to put up more numbers if you want to crack top 6s elsewhere.
I think if you're the Calgary Flames, you just convince them to stick around until the playoffs, have another great playoff,
there you go.
Raise your stock a little bit, and then, let's talk trade in the offseason.
Off-season, boom.
Let's be honest here. All right, we are going to take a break here on Cabin Sports Radio, and we will be back and talk a bit about, Bell Media just kind of not doing great. That's next on Cabin Sports Radio.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. If you check out sportnorth.com right now, some very good news just posted today that NWT Soccer announcing the extension of its long-standing partnership with Northwestel until 2023. This partnership commits $40,500 in funding to NWT Soccer's outdoor summer camp operations over a 3-year period, enabling the association to expand programming in a range of Northwest Territories communities, which is obviously a good thing and incredible timing given that Northwestel is a subsidiary of Bell Media, and we're about to speak not so glowingly about Bell Media. Michael,
A number of on-air personalities, including Dan O'Toole of TSN's Sports Center with Jay and Dan, were dropped by the network last week amid hundreds of layoffs announced by Bell Media. Other notable Sports Center regulars, Natasha Staniszewski, Brett Wallace, and Christian Jack, were also among the 200 staffers let go a day after Bell Media's annual mental health initiative, Bell Let's Talk Day.
I don't know if you saw any of Dan O'Toole's follow-up tweets in regards to it. So the day after he found out, it was very like professional and very just, you know, it said something to the effect of, had I known this was going to be my last show, I would have tried a little harder. You know, it's been a good run. Happy to have, to have had this opportunity to do this for all of you. You know, better things ahead sort of thing. The type of typical thing that you see when something like this happens and someone just, without really any reason other than corporate, gets laid off. He got a little bit more real about it this past weekend and spoke about, the irony of the fact that Bell Media, a media giant in Canada, laid off just over 200 employees the week following Bell Let's Talk Day. It's, annual day to highlight initiatives done by the company to try and support mental health in our country. Very baffling. It does seem that they seem to make a point of this. The timing is very odd every year when you hear Bell layoffs announced. But I feel like this year hit home. Like, it's usually, you know, kind of like entry level type stuff. You know, it's always the little guys who are trying to get their foot in the door. They get cut loose, and no one really bats an eyelash because you don't have a personal connection to any of these people. Unless, like, you knew them, you know, you knew them, like, in journalism school or something like that, and they get cut loose. Yeah, that sucks. But when it's someone like Dan O'Toole, who a lot of people in this country watch every night on SportsCenter, Jay and Dan has been a fixture in Canada. You know, there was a gap of years in between where they were doing Fox Sports, but we never forgot about them. And then when they came back to TSN, it was a big deal. People loved Jay and Dan. And, it was as though he kind of had a few days to let it really sink in. And then, kind of let his true feelings come out about it.
So this is their flagship program, like SportsCenter with Jay and Dan. It didn't matter how late it was on in the evening. You were going to tune in for some silly humor and their take on sports. And then they're obviously touching on the biggest sports stories going on of the day. So if you're regularly tuning into highlights, you're going to catch it anyways. But with a side of really fun comedy. And they've been doing it. They're the pros. They've been doing it together for 2 decades now. They, of course, had that 4-year stint where they were, you know, the hottest tickets in town. So they were attracted by Fox Sports. And they were working down in LA for 4 years before coming back up. It was a huge deal. I remember when they came back in 2017. Everyone tuned in and watched it again. They had great chemistry always. And combined 2 of my favorite things anyways in sports and humor. Natasha was another regular on SportsCenter. You know, so up there with the heavyweights like the Titians and the Onrights and the Hedgers, you know, the James Duthie. So these just faces and names we've seen since we were growing up, basically. They would bring us the latest in sports news. Brent Wallace, now the Ottawa Senators lose their beat reporter, basically. So he was on site bringing stories to TSN from the nation's capital for the Ottawa Senators. And then a soccer reporter in Christian Jack. Now, obviously, that's only a handful of the 200. That's a lot of people to lose their job and their livelihood. But I think the big thing that a lot of people are taking away from this now is the timing of everything. And this coming from, you know, a telecoms provider that specializes in communication. this, I don't know how things like this are typically handled, but people are tuning in late at night on Thursday, and there's no Jay and Dan. There's two other people.
Yeah.
And then the Twitter account for SportsCenter with Jay and Dan is deactivated and becomes Sportsnet with Jay. So immediately people start speculating, and then I think the original Twitter handle was left vacant. Someone scooped it up and started tweeting from it.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Asking for Dan's return.
Oh my
so
God.
It was really a bit of a gaffe
Wow.
and a screw up on their part. And then, of course, we find out through Dan himself, the next morning, what the scoop is. And it's really unfortunate. These are people we've grown up watching. They're professionals in the industry. And you're right. It's really unfortunate when you see the entry level people go, because they haven't even had a fair shot. They're just getting their crack at the industry, and could develop into something really special. The Dan O'Tooles of today. Mm-hmm. But it really, like you said, it hits a little more closer to home when these are people that grew up watching. We see every single day. And you
kind of get it too, like especially for you and I who went to a media college or a journalism school. You kind of. First of all, when you go to a media college or a journalism school, they are your instructors. I think it's part of every media curriculum out there that they tell you on your first day, if you are in this to make money, drop out now.
Right.
Get your money back.
Yeah.
Get your full refund and go into business administration. Mm-hmm. Go into something else, because this is not. You're not going to make a bunch of money in this. I mean, you might. Some people do, but the vast, vast, vast majority of people in the industry do not. Mm-hmm. And so when you go into media college and you have that thrown at you, and then you get your first break and entry level job, you almost go in half expecting something like this to happen, especially if it is with a major corporation like a Bell or a Rogers or something like that. It's kind of inevitable that there are going to be layoffs, because apparently giant media corporations can't figure things out ahead of time and hire the correct amount of people for when you're only making like $100 million in profit. They can't figure that out ahead of time. So these layoffs, they happen consistently. Mm-hmm. A lot of people pointing out, though, the fact that Bell, and I assume Rogers as well, but took a very handsome COVID relief payout from the Canadian government. Yeah. Took that, also posted, I think, over $120 million in profit this year. Yeah. And still laid off 200 people. Mm-hmm. And and then you compound that on the fact that it comes 1 week after Bell Let's Talk Day, their big spiel about supporting mental health initiatives and programs in Canada. And you know what's really bad for mental health? Losing your job.
Probably losing your job, which Dan O'Toole alluded to. Has not been shy about his own struggles. Took some time off for mental health reasons last year. So not even that long ago. And within a week of this, which is, it's a great initiative, obviously. Any type of initiative like that's drawing attention to the stigma surrounding mental health, that's great. That's great to have initiatives like that. But the timing quite poor. I don't think TSN and SportsCenter are probably the same money making machines they were pre-pandemic levels. No. But you're still on a corporate level turning really big profits.
And these are not a secret to anyone. We see these posted profits.
Yeah. But even if you're posting these massive profits, if they're down year over year, that's what the executives are looking at. They're not looking at the actual number of the physical profits. They're looking at year over year revenue losses. And if that's the case, even in the midst of a global pandemic, that's unfortunately what they look like. And they look at those reductions and that shrinking. And that's where those personnel decisions are made. Of course, they're going to say it's not personal. These are business decisions related to the numbers.
It's not personal. It's personnel.
Personnel, yeah. But it is really unfortunate, and we saw the more human side from Dan saying, and he said exactly to that effect. It's like, it is good for mental health keeping a job, but that's been stripped of me now. So I haven't done too much reading beyond, but I don't know if this is a case where they're being furloughed or laid off entirely. I'm not sure. So when we come back to when we're on the other side of this pandemic, who knows when that's going to be? Maybe they're in a position where they can bring some staffers back. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But for the time being, a really sad story. And it involved a lot of regional radio stations as well. So it goes beyond TSN. But obviously, when we see people that we're used to seeing every single day on our televisions no longer employed, it hits a little closer to home. So. Yeah, you don't like to see it.
No, you don't. And I mean, absolutely, like you say, with someone hijacking their Twitter account, just on top of
handled very poorly.
Yeah, on top of a regrettable decision to begin with, a complete PR debacle. And Natasha Staniszewski is one that we kind of glossed over a bit. Like, she seemed like she was really carving out a niche for herself as the panel host for a lot of the women's sports, which were getting a lot more attention in the last few years. And she was settling in really well. She was doing a great job of it. That one really surprised me. I think Dan probably surprised people the most because, I mean, it's kind of, Jay and Dan was becoming a cornerstone fixture like Ron and Don were on Coach's Corner on Hockey Night in Canada. And the thing is, Dan didn't even say anything stupid to get him fired from his job. And so it's really sad. There's no real reason for it. And it puts, Jay Onrait in a difficult position where a good friend of his, longtime partner on the air, all of a sudden you're expected to just soldier on and I guess turn a corner as though nothing has happened. It obviously changes their show completely. They had a real playing off each other chemistry going. That's going to change. It's going to take a lot of the charm away from SportsCenter, despite Jay Onright's best efforts. And I mean, he's a talented sportscaster, but you take away something that you've been building for, like you say, nearly 2 decades, and it's going to be different. No doubt about that.
He did have his first show without him, and it was emotional for him. And he obviously spoke at length about his really good friend, and they are good friends off side of the set. Unrelated reasons, we're going to see Tim and Sid break up on the Rogers Sportsnet because Sid is heading over to breakfast television. And one other thing, in the age of social media that kind of rears its ugly head, there have been, and I think it was Kayla Gray of TSN tweeting, throw all this tokenism crap out the window, because a lot of people are saying, why are these people losing their jobs versus others? Oh, these people aren't losing their jobs because of the token hires, basically.
Right.
So that sort of reared its ugly head too. But at the end of the day, these are corporate decisions that are based on greed, quite frankly. So it's not, it isn't personal. They're not keeping you there as the token hire. They're keeping you there because you should be there, but they've also sort of cornered themselves and made these other decisions, and they're based entirely on corporate greed. Profits, they're down, but they're still absolutely massive. And now we're seeing good people lose their positions, and that's sad to see.
And even if that is the case, does it really change the end result?
Right.
You're still seeing 200 people laid off, regardless of what hires those were and for what reasons. So when you get into that, you're just becoming a bigot for the sake of bigotry, and that's not something any of us should strive to do. So if that's how you're feeling about things, then just don't contribute to the conversation. I don't know if you saw this final thought on that, but one we didn't mention, producer Tim. Long time worker with Jay and Dan also.
So that one, was that announced earlier? Because he had just had a newborn, I think. Because I saw them tweeting about it around, it would have been around the same time, I guess.
Right.
So, but maybe, I'm wondering if it was announced a bit earlier, because I always remember hearing them yell at producer Tim. Really unfortunate.
So good job, Bell, laying off a guy with a newborn.
Brand new father.
That's nice.
Who had just taken time off, and I think was just returning to work. So their flagship program, it's going to look a lot different now, and it'll take some time.
Mike, I'm glad we took time to talk about this.
Yes, there we go.
Today and every day.
Today and every day.
Here on Cabin Sports Radio. All right, we are going to finish off by a little salute to that very same duo, Jay and Dan. Let's take a look back at their aforementioned little foray to the United States after their first show with Fox Sports Live, and after the results came back from the audience, which were less than favorable. We'll talk to you next week on Cabin Sports Radio.
What we've decided to do is go through 20 of our very favorite critical tweets and assess them one by one.
Okay. From @TuckSports, the new Fox Sports 1 nightly show sucks.
All right. Well, that's simple, effective, very concise. Not really being specific about what they don't like. Number 2, from @AnnieClaire, wasn't sure how I felt about Fox Sports Live. Then they mentioned a drinking game. #sold. I like that. Remember, on Fox Sports Live, anytime a highlight pack goes to extra innings, you must take it.
And if you don't enjoy the show, drink. It usually helps. @BFAT65, Fox Sports 1, Canadians telling me when to drink? This is some bull.
You know what? Honestly, we're just trying to help. Okay, I don't know if we have to swear. @Kenny Florian, from our own UFC Fox show, watching at Fox Sports Live with Jay Onrait and Dan O'Toole is proof that Canadians can be awesome. Never judge a Canadian by the color of his denim. Now, Kenny, as much as we appreciate the compliment, we don't exclusively wear denim off camera. Just Monday to Saturday, and then Sundays, we usually just wear Inch.
I won't respond to Kenny because he terrifies me. @E_Campbell3, the anchors on Fox Sports 1 suck so hard, it's embarrassing. I think that's a compliment.
That's actually not too bad. This is probably my favorite one we got. @Skippy Ties. This is actually the actor who played Skippy on Family Ties.
No.
His name is Mark Price, and he decided to make his Twitter handle @Skippy Ties.
Okay.
He says he's primarily known as Skippy on Family Ties. I'm pretty sure, Mark, that's all you're known for. It says, this Jay Onrait on Fox Sports is about as creepy as it gets. Annoying voice and eyes that say, I drive a dark van and give out candy to kids. Skippy, I drive a light-colored van. @Julian Spivey 44. First impression from Fox Sports 1's Fox Sports Live. Co-host Jay Onrait looks like a serial killer.
I think she's got something. @John Alba SFC, I love Jay and Dan. I could watch this style all day, but I see where others would be bothered by it.
Like Skippy from Family Ties.
@FS1, @Harry from Cbus, I'm not liking the two smug D-bags who co-anchor Fox Sports Live. D-bags is a bit far.
Is it?
I don't wear a fedora.
@Alexis Wright 37. I don't dislike Jay and Dan, but I also don't seem to have the same devoted and boisterous love for them as others do.
Alexis, get off the fence.
Yeah, come on, Alexis. Pick a side.
Yeah, you hate us. Come on. @Charles_Loring, these guys on Fox Sports 1 Live are just stupid. Trying way too hard to be funny. Charles, I'd like to correct you. The problem is we do not try hard. We put zero effort into the show. So, I think you're wrong, but yes, we are stupid.
Yeah, we haven't tried for, 11 years. And look where we are now. @RulingClassBAL. Your nightly highlight show is... These guys are clowns. @Fox Sports 1, #TV, #sports, #hater.
Ruling class uses a lot of hashtags, hoping that something catches on. Just throwing a lot of mud at the wall.
Haters gonna hate, man.
And this one, I think, sums up a lot of people's opinion. This is from SF Niners fan. Fox Sports Live is stupid.
They'll warm up to us.